what's going on, everybody? Alex with you here again. Thanks for dropping by. Always great to see you guys. Before we get started, I just want to make note that we are like this close to reaching 4,000 subscribers, and well, actually, we're not this close. We're like this close, but you know, I'm super excited. Every day I check and I get more subscribers joining, more of you guys are enjoying my content. So before we get started, I just wanted to thank each and every one of you guys for watching, for taking the time, for subscribing. So be sure to keep that going. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, just click that subscribe button. It really does help this channel quite a bit. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys the DGT 2500, the official chess clock of the International Chess Federation. Somewhat of a recent unveiling by the DGT company. I think it's been around 5 months maybe or so. In fact, about 5 months ago or so, I emailed the DGT company to ask them if there was anything new or exciting going on as far as new developments in the DGT world. To which they replied me this huge email saying that they're unveiling this DGT 2500 and they are super stoked about it. They're like super duper excited about all the different features and about just the overall design, the ergonomics of this clock, and why they believe that this is going to be sort of like the best clock ever. I'm also going to be basically showing you guys how this looks, how it operates, what I think about it. I will set it side by side next to this DGT Pi clock, which is essentially sort of a combination between the DGT Pi computer and the DGT 3000, to show you side by side how it looks and what features as far as the size and the overall ergonomics I favor of one versus the other. I have to say that there's really not a lot of chess clocks that I've reviewed on my channel. Part of that reason is that I just don't think there's a lot of people out there that are in the hobby of collecting chess clocks. Those people that are collecting something chess related are usually collecting like either chess pieces, chess boards, antique chess sets, that type of stuff. There's not that many people out there that are, you know, interested or want to have a chess clock, but I think that every one of us should have a chess clock. Now, you can always turn your cell phone into a chess clock, but I think that having a clock like the DGT 2500 is really not going to set you back that far financially, but I think it's a must to have a clock like this for all your chess playing needs. So let me not waste any more of your time. I'm gonna bring the camera closer. We'll take a look. Alrighty, so here we go. This is the box to the DGT 2500. I mean, you have to say that as far as the overall look, even like the front of the box, this kind of reminds me of some sort of a sports car, because you got this sort of a low profile red color, really nice sort of streamlines here. The overall design, I think aesthetically, I'd have to say that this is probably the most aesthetic DGT clock. Now, some people might argue and say like the DGT 2000 was really aesthetic, or even the 2100, but I think they made this a lot like lower to the ground, slick, and overall, like I really like the fact that they have these like really large screen, really bold numbers, easy to see. Over here on the back, you get this sort of a little guide sheet here. The same guide sheet's going to be present on the underside of the clock itself. Really nice box overall. Everything's packaged really neatly. Very simplistic design. Now, as far as the pricing of this clock, I think it'll set you back approximately $70 or so. So it's not really going to break the bank. I think that it's priced very competitively with the other DGT clocks here. And here we go. We got this sort of bubble wrap here, and look at this. Nice big screen overall. Let me set this aside real quick, and then I'll show you what comes in the remainder of the box. We've got the official chess clock information as far as the type of stuff that you are likely to encounter. This, I think, is like the, you know, the typical stuff that shows you how to handle the clock, what temperatures you need to keep it in. It does take 2 AA batteries, which have been provided with the clock itself. So that's good to see. They haven't forgotten that. In case you just purchased a clock and you're somewhere at a tournament, you open up the box and you're like, oh, I forgot the batteries, but they're already in there. At least mine's were. Other languages, we have a quick sort of description of the different time intervals. We have the delays, the US delay, everything that you need to know really. Alrighty, so here's the back of the clock here. You guys can see a really sort of a nice low-key kind of subtle design. Here on the side it says nice DGT 2500. I like this really nice sort of accentuating white line over here. It's really not, you know, giving us any practical purpose to it, but it just looks nice aesthetically. If we switch the side a little bit, we see that we have this sort of a nice cool design of this protrusion outward a little bit. Kind of makes it nice and slick, and then the back side, the line kind of runs all the way at the bottom. And then same design here on this side as well. Now the top will have this really large button. Large button with somewhat of a nice amount of resistance to the click. You can't just gently put your finger on it and expect it to. So there's some resistance to it. I like to feel this resistance. That will, it's not ensure that this is going to sort of fall on its own, and it's going to make sure that when you're ready to click that, you click it and it will make a sound, so that way I feel like it's designed well. And this really large button here, it feels really nice in my opinion. The fact that it's really nice, you get a lot of surface area, easier to click, especially if you're not looking at the clock. When you're playing the game, you don't concentrate on the clock itself. It's designed so it's easy for you to find it with your fingers there. The underside of the clock here is where we will get most of the information on the different time options available. This is also the same information we've seen on the back of the box. This little category right over here, they kind of make it easy because they break things down for us. This little category here is where you will have just regular time intervals without the delay. So we'll have 5 minutes, 25 minutes, 60 minutes. Then you have these 2-hour games that are a little bit longer for people that want those particular characteristics. So in situations where you're at a tournament and you need to select specifically those, they will be found under the following numbers. So as we will see here shortly, when you turn on the clock, you can easily switch for which number you want to select, and it will guide your clock to assume these particular specifications, whatever you want. At the very bottom right over here, we have the manual. Now this manual here, if you click on that, it will allow you to choose something other than what's available here. So like, for example, when I used to go to tournaments, they would do 30 minutes. So here we have 5, 25. I can just go to manual, set it for 30. And the nice thing is that when you turn off the clock and then you turn it back on, it will still be on that particular option. So if you turn it off and you want to turn it back on and end up being back on 30 minutes, you'll get that same. So there is a memory, and that makes it easier so you don't have to set it up, especially if you're playing multiple games and you don't want to waste battery just keeping the clock on. You can turn it off but come back to it afterwards. So as you guys can see right up here, we have the delay options like 3 minutes plus 2 seconds per move, 5 minutes plus 3 seconds per move, 10 plus 10 seconds, 15 plus 5, 15 plus 10. So whatever different options you want, basically when you turn the clock on, you just select one of these 9 through 21. And that will kind of get you to where you want to be. Really easy to use. I like this clock for the fact that once you kind of get a hang of it, it really doesn't take you long to figure out how to get to the option that you want. And if you want something manual, just either go to this manual option if you don't choose delays. And if you want a delay, you'll just choose this 21, option 21. Then it will allow you to pick the time interval that you want, and then the delay that you want. Now, when you're picking time interval at manual, whether it's this or that, you will see here shortly, when you pick the time interval, you can pick, let's say you do 30 minutes, and when you select 30 minutes on one side, it'll automatically select 30 minutes on the opponent's side. But once you kind of get to the opponent's side, you can actually either click continue, or you can select different time for him. So like if the opponent is only getting 25 minutes and you're getting 30 for some reason, then you can select that at that point. Because sometimes in some tournaments, like if the opponent doesn't want to notate their games, they will get penalized, like by removing 5 minutes off their game or something like that. We've got additional little intervals here. We get the delay Bronstein bonus and the US delay right over here. For those of you guys who will need those particular specifications in your tournaments, you will have them here. Most of the different time intervals are covered for what we're expecting. Now, this last category right over here belongs to things other than chess. We got the Biomi, Canadian Biomi, Scrabble, Hourglass, Gong, and a move timer. So this category here is really not going to be something that most of you guys are going to encounter, at least you know if you're using this clock specifically for chess. Now, if you're buying this clock for Scrabble, for example, it's really nice to see that you have a specific Scrabble options, but we've seen this in other chess clocks as well. So a lot of times this will be present. But if you want, for whatever other reason, you want a manual interval, you can always do that, and then that will save it to the manual option. So that way, when you're going back and playing some other game than chess or whatever other specific time interval you want, it'll be in there already, so it kind of makes it easier. That's pretty much it. There's other options here that if you want to select, for example, a sound that's going to be present for when the opponent loses on time, you can select those options. But that's pretty much it on the back. I really like how everything's been categorized in these little lines. Kind of makes it easier for people to find the time interval that they're looking for. Another thing that I wanted to note is these little legs here, the little rubberized legs are nice and wide. If we compare the legs to the legs present on the DGT Pi, I'm gonna have a little bit of a hard time, but you see the legs on the DGT Pi are a little bit smaller here. Kind of hard to see, but they're like right there at the corner. They're a little bit smaller, so it makes it a little bit less stable, I suppose, but overall, I really like the fact that you have a nice broad base to this clock, kind of makes it nice and stable. As always, you have this on and off button that's slightly hidden underneath here, so you don't like click it by mistake or anything. When you initially turn on the clock, we have the very original setup, which is the setup number 1, which is the 5-minute game. And if you want to go ahead and proceed with just a 5-minute game without any other things, you just click this play button right here. It has the play and pause, and then if you click it one more time, we are ready to go. So no additional delay, nothing like that. You're just getting a 5-minute game. 5-minute game, I guess, is one of the more popular games. So that's how it operates. A really nice clock. Now, if we kind of switch it all off to the side, you can see there's a really nice screen. Here's kind of to give you guys a comparison. We have the DGT Pi screen and then the DGT 2500. We can see that the screen here is substantially smaller, and also one of the things that sort of makes it a little bit hard for people to see is the additional information that's sort of present here, because if we look at the DGT Pi clock, which is essentially the DGT 3000, you have these additional lines that run over here on the top. On the bottom, you have these other little things that are present that sort of make the screen a little bit more complicated. But also, if you guys take a look, you just get much bigger and more like bold numbers right over here. So when you're kind of sort of putting these screens to the side, it's a lot easier for you to keep an eye on these large numbers, because they're just more simplistic as opposed to the other one. Now, some people might disagree with me, especially those who are used to playing with the DGT 3000, perhaps more. You're kind of used to this arrangement, but I'd have to say that this looks really quite nice. What do you guys think? Another thing that I find better on the DGT 2500 is the button. The button here overall is a lot bigger compared to this button here. Yeah, they made this button a lighter color, so it's sort of easier to see where the button is. But this button on the top here is so much bigger and easier for you to click. Another reason why I find that this ergonomically works a little bit better. Also, when you set them side by side like this, when you're playing on like against somebody, okay, a lot of times, I guess, let me just show you, okay? So when we're playing, we have this clock on the side here, okay? And when we're playing, a lot of times, when we're coming to hit the clock with our hand, we might have this part of our hand on the table, and so you don't necessarily want to pick it up unless you have to. And if you're sliding your hand and just want to kind of keep it easy, it's a lot easier because it's so close to the ground that it sort of makes it ergonomically better for you to sort of move the hand to the side without having to lift this part up. Not like that it makes that much of a difference, but feeling wise, being that it's so close to the ground, it just makes it just the right sort of a height to be very pleasant ergonomically. See, like just this movement of the hand, compare that to like the taller clock. I know this is the DGT Pi, so if you're dealing with the DGT 3000, it's a little bit shorter here, but For example, like the DGT Pi, you can't just come in sort of with your hand, because you have to kind of raise this part right over here and then place it here. I mean, you can always come from the top, but it's just, I feel like if you're looking for that button and you're not really paying attention to where the clock is, here you have to kind of do this, which is fine. I guess I'm being a little bit picky, but ergonomically, I believe that it's lower like this. It just makes it overall like right where it needs to be height-wise for most people. It feels just right. It really feels like they've taken their time to really test out like the height that it should be, and they got the height just right. Okay. Another thing that I kind of prefer in this clock as opposed to the DGT 3000 is just how big the buttons over here are. So it's just makes it overall easier, because there's a lot more information on the buttons here, but it also kind of can get a little bit confusing. It's easier to set up different things like sound control and everything when you have it on the button like you do have in the DGT 3000, but for the most part I feel like when you have the buttons that it just looks easier and overall just easier to read like this. Once you get a hang of what each button does, it just overall looks like a much cleaner, less confusing interface, in my opinion. When you turn this on, as I've said before, it says here, let's play. And right as you turn it on, in the middle right over here, you have this blinking thing. So this is going to be the right time for you to go ahead and choose what particular time interval you want. Here's setting 2, 25 minutes for each side, 1 hour. Then you have these additional ones that are 2 hours with additional time intervals. And then you have 7, which is also called Armageddon. One person gets 5 minutes, the other one gets 4 minutes. It's kind of fair, I guess. And then 8 are going to be our manual setting without delay. If you choose this one and you click yes, it will basically run you through who gets what. So like right over here, if you go like this, for example, each person will get 1 hour and 30 minutes. But then as you sort of click here, let's say, and then you get to the opponent's side right over here, this is when you can actually alter the other side. So if one person gets, for example, 1 hour and 30 minutes, but the other one is going to get 140 for whatever reason, you can set it as that. So then you can just click play after that. And then we're ready to go. Okay. Now if you turn the clock off and you turn it back on, it has the same settings sort of pre-saved. So even if we go back, for example, to just go ahead and have a 5-minute game like this, and we turn it off and we turn it back on, we are still at 5-minute game. But if we go back to setting 8, this is when we'll still have that particular setting. So that's kind of, look at how nice that screen is when we sort of put it to the screen. It's nice bold letters, easy to see, really nice contrasty numbers. Just overall pleasure to look at, in my opinion. Just nice design of the screen. No additional information. It's really nice. Now the next features we're going to include time intervals, 3 minute, 2 seconds, and then we have like 5 minute, 3 seconds, 10 minute, 10 seconds. So we have the different ones right over here. And then when you get to the manual setting, this is another Armageddon right over here. 4 minute, one person gets 4 minutes, the other one 5, but this is with additional delays. And then the 21 is going to be the choosing the manual settings. So if you want additional settings or additional times that are not available here, if for some reason you want specific times, you can choose them here. The Bronstein delays here, 25 minute with US delay. Past this point right over here, we get into the Biomi, the Canadian Biomi. You get Scrabble right over here. You get Hourglass, I believe, and then the additional time intervals that are present all the way till 36. Once you pass 36, you get to the beginning. So overall, very, very easy to use, in my opinion. Like it's pleasant to use, especially if you're just looking for a specific configuration. If you're not like going to be switching back and forth, if you don't, like if you go to a particular tournament and you know that tournament plays games at 30 minutes, for example, all you have to do is go ahead and to go to like setting 8 and go ahead and set this up. So in this case, I would go ahead and just click that and we're ready to go. So we got 30 minutes. And then when I turn this off, I'm going to be there we go. Really, really quite nice. Weight-wise, this clock measures at 320 grams, whereas the DGT Pi weighs in at approximately 344 grams. But that's because we've got that extra little bit of, I guess, that extra base there. So just a little bit heavier, but not significantly. As far as the dimensions of the size of this clock, for anybody who's interested in purchasing this and they're concerned about whether or not this will fit into their case, carrying case, we're looking at this, and it's slightly more than 7 inches, as you guys can see right over here. Almost 20 centimeters or so, but not that big. It's definitely longer than the DGT 3000. And size-wise, the width of it is measuring at approximately 11 centimeters or so. And then the height of this clock is approximately about 5 centimeters. I think that the DGT Pi is more of a clock that you would probably end up purchasing for specifically if you have the DGT e-board, because it has that extra computer and it has other options that sort of makes it a lot more advanced than just a DGT clock. If you're looking for the clock itself, there's different DGT clocks available. We've got the DGT 2100, I think we got the DGT 2000, DGT 3000, but as you guys can see, I think that this clock just makes a lot more sense if you're just looking for a chess clock. In fact, the video that I did, the review of the Excalibur 2, I did mention that I felt like it was one of my favorite clocks at the time, but I didn't have the DGT 2500. In conclusion, I feel like if I had to choose one clock to have for, to take on any games, essentially, this is a nice, slick, aesthetic, and very functional clock. It's just, in all ways, pretty much, the company has designed a clock that just surpasses people's expectations, in my opinion. It's a good clock. It's just really nice. There's really not much I can say that I would say, well, no, for this particular reason, I'd probably say it wouldn't be a good clock. But it has to be, since this is the official clock of the International Chess Federation. So, yeah. I like it quite a bit, and considering that the DGT 3000 I think was retailing for about either the same price as this or maybe a little bit more expensive, close to like $100, and this is only about 70, so it's definitely a clock that's been priced to sell. It's been a clock that's competitive and should be on pretty much everybody's wish list for anybody who is wanting to get a clock. A serious clock, not just something, a collectible item or anything, but a serious clock. I mean, you can always go with sort of a cell phone or something as a clock, but this is a lot nicer, and it'll be more dependable, because sometimes your cell phone might run out of battery. Sometimes you may be receiving a cell phone call or something, as you guys have seen in the Tempest review that I did. But in this case, there's no distractions. It's just a nice overall clean screen, and it just functions the way it's designed to function. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please hit that like button and stay tuned for more videos, okay?